Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. So, the Democratic establishment has gotten to a point where they're now saying, don't talk about Trump's sending military to Chicago. The messaging is unconvincing. It's just a distraction. Well, yeah, of course it's a distraction. That's not even a question. It's always been a distraction. It's always been, hey, talk about anything except for the Epstein files. So we know this, but in a time where the opposition to the Republican strongmen that seem to believe they control all aspects of the government, what we need is not people in the establishment saying, don't talk about this topic. We need to be united on talk about all the topics. It's not a question of don't talk about this, talk about this. We can talk about both things at the same time. It's not an either or question. There's plenty of space out there to discuss the encroaching authoritarian regime putting out their armed thugs into another major city and talking about the destruction of Medicaid and talking about the bad economy and, of course, still talking about the Epstein files. It's not like people only have the attention to think of one topic at a time. So what really it is the establishment not wanting to take on the bad guy, our current leader, because they are seeming to love to play into the perception that they are weak and ineffectual, because that's all they seem to do is just say, oh, well, we don't want to be too heavy-handed on this. We don't want to rock the boat. And all that seems to get us is more and more power to the conservative side of the political aisle. And when you ask people in the higher up echelon of the Democratic Party, like Hakeem Jeffries, and you ask them, what are you going to do about this obviously authoritarian rise of soldiers in cities of people that he doesn't like and the Republican majority doesn't like, purely because in their mind it's to stop the crime. But it's obviously not to stop the crime. These are people who don't even know those cities. They're just saying that because it's easy to point fingers and say that they're full of crime when, honestly, crime has been pretty well handled in both cities, despite claims to the contrary. But his answer is basically, well, but he can't do that. Well, at this point, I think we've gotten to a point where he can't do that is not a legitimate reasoning, because he's done a lot of things he, quote unquote, can't do. We're at a point where he can't do that is not an impediment. He shouldn't be able to do that. It's not right that he does that. He should be stopped from doing it. But he absolutely can do it, and he will do it unless he is actually prevented from doing it. So falling back on this, well, but he's not supposed to be allowed to do this thing, that is not strong messaging. That is not the kind of thing that gets people on the left galvanized and fighting against the, frankly, absurd level of authoritarian power that the Republicans are exerting in just about every aspect of our lives at this point. So I don't know what they think they're doing. I want to believe that while the Hakeem Jeffries and DNC upper echelons are kind of spinning their wheels and not really doing anything of value to fight against what we're seeing, that there are people on the left who are willing to really put the screws down and really start action and fighting. But I don't know when it's going to happen. It's kind of just a waiting game of, any day now they're going to announce something. And it seems like every day that goes by and they don't, it's yet another waiting. But I do still believe that they are thinking. There are a lot of very smart, proactive people on the Democrat side, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it. But there are, and I do believe that they are not just sitting back and letting these things happen. They're thinking and formulating and planning for something. I don't know what that something is, because they're clearly a lot smarter than me, because I certainly don't know what to do in this case, but they do, I think. So they're going to do something. They're thinking, they're planning. I trust in that implicitly, but the wait is not easy, and I think we are all feeling that the time is long past come for real, clear, visual action, and not just, but he's not allowed to do that, so let's not talk about it. The time for weakness on the left is long past, and we cannot afford to not be acting proactively, because we've already seen that when you don't, they just gobble up more and more and start enacting more and more things that, frankly, they're not supposed to be able to do, but they do because no one can stop them, and no one is actively doing anything. They're saying, oh, no, don't do it, but they're not acting, and action is the only thing these people really seem to understand, because words do nothing, and the Democrats are very good at saying words and writing sternly written letters, but not acting. And now is the time for action, not talking. So I don't know what exactly the Democratic establishment thinks they're going to get done by telling the populace to not worry about, not think about the sending of armed military into Chicago, not talking about the armed military that have been in the capital, Washington, D.C. for now, I think, weeks. It doesn't make sense. We should absolutely be talking about it. We should absolutely be saying this is not acceptable. And some are. I mean, there are protests in the street constantly against the military encroachment in D.C., which is exactly what they should be doing. Now is not the time for silence and just saying, well, but he can't do these things, so don't keep bringing it up. It's the time now is for action, not words. So I will have to do as all of us do and just sit and wait for the more proactive Democrats to do something. And while it irks me to be basically waiting for the hero to ride in and save us, short of going out and protesting, I don't know what else the people on the ground can do other than wait for smarter, more proactive Democrats to do what all the Democrats should do, which is to act and not speak and not try to silence discussion on topics that are now very important. So we'll see where this all goes. So that's it for this episode of A Slice of News. Until next time, and I'll cut you off another slice of news.